Have you ever heard of an illness that doesn't give you a cough or a fever, but instead forces you to dance? I don't mean dancing for fun, I mean uncontrollably, manically, sometimes until you literally drop dead. We're about to dive into the truly bizarre and terrifying history of the dancing plagues. So let's just start with the big question right up front. Could you actually dance yourself to death? I know, it sounds like something out of a fairy tale, but for hundreds of people in the Middle Ages, this was a terrifyingly real possibility. Today, we're going to unravel this incredible mystery, how it happened, and what on earth was causing it.
All right, to really get our heads around this, we're going to zero in on the most famous, most well-documented case in them all. This is the story of the dancing plague that completely took over the city of Strasbourg back in 1518.
So picture the scene. It's the summer of 1518 in Strasbourg. Life is tough. People are on edge, dealing with famine, poverty, and all sorts of diseases. The whole city is like a powder cake of anxiety, and a single bizarre spark is about to set the whole thing off. And here's that spark. It all started with just one woman, a Frau Troffea. On July 14th, she stepped out into a street and just began to dance. No music, no party. She just danced and couldn't stop. But check out how fast this thing spread. Within a week, 30 other people were dancing beside her. And by August, that number had exploded to 400 people. The city was gripped by a full-blown dancing mania. Now, you'd think the city officials would try to stop this, right? Well, their solution was, pretty out there. They figured these people had hot blood, and the only cure was to just dance it out. I'm not kidding. They built a stage, they hired musicians, and they literally encouraged everyone to keep dancing. The result? An absolute catastrophe. At the height of this thing, as many as 15 people a day were dying from heart attacks, strokes, and pure physical exhaustion.
And here's the really wild part. Strasbourg wasn't just some isolated freak event. It was actually the most famous outbreak of a phenomenon that had been popping up across Europe for centuries. This was a continent-wide nightmare.
Historians actually have a name for this. It's called Choreomania. That's the term for these strange outbreaks of compulsive, non-stop dancing that would spread from person to person, just like a virus. It was also known as St. Vitus's dance, because people believed the saint could both cause the curse and, hopefully, cure it. And let's be clear, when we say dancing, we're not talking about anything graceful. Eyewitness accounts from the time paint a truly horrifying picture. People were jerking and hopping around uncontrollably. Some were foaming at the mouth. Others were even heard barking like dogs. Many were hallucinating, seeing saints or demons, all while trapped in this trance, completely unable to stop their own bodies. So you can imagine, people at the time were desperately trying to make sense of all this madness. And they were pretty much torn between two very different worlds. The world of faith and the supernatural, and the world of their own, very limited medical science. Yeah, society was basically split. On one hand, you had the supernatural explanation. This had to be a curse from a saint, or maybe demonic possession, or even a punishment from God. But on the other side, you had the physicians, who were using the science of their day. They diagnosed it as an imbalance of the bodily humors, specifically hot blood, which led to their disastrous advice to just keep dancing. Okay, so that's what they thought back then. But what about today? What do modern historians and psychologists think was going on? Well, we have a pretty powerful theory, and it has nothing to do with curses or hot blood. The answer, it turns out, is deep inside the human mind. The leading theory today is that choreomania was a severe form of mass psychogenic illness, or what you might have heard called mass hysteria. This is a fascinating phenomenon where real, physical symptoms of an illness spread through a group of people, but there's no actual virus or bacteria causing it. The contagion isn't biological, it's psychological. The historian John Waller breaks it down into 4 really clear steps that create the perfect storm. So step 1, you need a community that's already under extreme stress, from things like famine and disease, which makes everyone psychologically fragile. Step 2, you need a deeply held common belief. In this case, it was the widespread, fervent belief that a saint could literally curse you to dance uncontrollably. Step 3, you need a trigger. One person, like Frau Troffea, having a very public breakdown. And then step 4 is where it all ignites, psychological contagion. In this super anxious environment, other people see the trigger, their brains latch onto that familiar superstitious belief, and they start showing the exact same physical symptoms. It just creates this terrifying, self-fueling feedback loop. Now, this might all seem like some strange, dusty mystery from the Middle Ages, but the basic mechanics behind mass hysteria, they're absolutely timeless. The legacy of choreomania is actually all around us, even today. I mean, think about it. We see its echoes in horror stories, in movies with frenzied cults, and even in real documented cases of mass hysteria in modern schools and workplaces. And our modern world? It runs on the exact same engine. Instead of gathering in a village square, we gather on social media feeds. The mechanism is identical. Shared anxiety and social pressure cause ideas, panics, and even bizarre physical challenges to spread like a virus. Only now, it's at a speed the medieval world couldn't even dream of. And that really brings us to the final lingering question. The technology has changed, the specific beliefs have changed, but that underlying human psychology of stress and social contagion, that hasn't changed one bit. So it really makes you wonder, when we get caught up in a storm of online outrage fueled by anxiety and amplified by the crowd, how different are we really from the dancers of Strasbourg?